The Woolly Bumblebee.
The men's rights movement has an image problem. This is something I've been hearing more often as I speak to people who are anti-feminism. These people usually know the basics of the MRM, A Voice for Men, and other MRA groups, and do acknowledge that men have been dealt a raw deal in many ways. These are not people who are against men's rights. They're just people who have a bad impression of MRAs and the MRM in general. The biggest complaint seems to be that MRAs and the MRM is equally as dogmatic and vitriolic as feminists and feminism. I know that this is not the case, but the fact is that many people outside the MRM do hold this erroneous view of MRAs and the MRM because of what they've either heard from pro-feminist sources or from people who pose as MRAs but are really not MRAs. These are sadly the faces of MRAs and the MRM to many outsiders, and this is a huge problem for the MRM. Many outsiders think that MRAs hate women, want to see women back in kitchens, advocate violence, and are only concerned about men's rights, at the expense of everyone else's. Basically, MRAs are considered as bad as feminists to many outside the MRM. And we all need to step up and turn that image around quickly if we want to be taken seriously and be seen as a force for good. The way I see it, many people are simply unaware that the MRM is not just a movement which is only concerned about men's rights at the expense of all others. The MRM certainly does not put men up on a pedestal claiming that men never do anything horrible or bad. To say that would be ludicrous because we all know that anyone, regardless of their gender, can do bad shit and be a complete asshole. This is a fact that the MRM is more than able to admit because the MRM is concerned with truth and facts, as opposed to feminist ideology where every woman is an innocent victim. Yes, the MRM does focus on men's rights and issues first, because no one else has or does. But we also acknowledge that compassion and activism for others such as women, children, and the LGBT community is essential to the goal of having a productive, compassionate, and ultimately an egalitarian society. The goal of the MRM needs to be made clear to those on the outside. We need to make it clear that the MRM stands for compassion and equality for all, regardless of gender, race, sex, color, or social status. That we do not just say these things like feminism does for good PR, but that we mean it and that our actions reflect our mission. And that means calling out, denouncing, and shaming those who claim to be MRAs or part of the MRM, who are basically just thugs. These are the ones who advocate hate and violence towards women, and who push their hate and ignorance into the mainstream as representative of the MRM and MRAs to those outside the movement. As a movement, we're growing, but there's still a lot of work and untraveled road ahead. If we're to be taken seriously and to be seen as more than just a male version of feminism, then we need to make our mission clear, especially to those on the outside. We need to come together and agree that at the end of the day, the MRM is more than just advocating for men's rights, that we are a movement whose goal is ultimately to be compassionate and equal to all, with respect for all no matter one's sex, race, color, gender, or social standing. That our honesty and integrity as a movement is paramount, and that we are transparent to all. That we are unashamed to show our cards, and that we care about all human beings, not just men. This is what the MRM and being an MRA means to me, and I know that many of you share the same vision. Now it's up to us to get the message out to the world and let everyone know that the MRM is not a violent, misogynistic, hateful movement in any way, shape, or form. We need to dispel the negative myths that feminists have worked so hard to spread to the mainstream about MRAs and the MRM. We can do this together, but only if we come together and agree that the MRM is more than just a movement solely concerned with men's rights. When we do that, we'll be able to move forward drastically and destroy the negative ideas people hold about us and our movement.